Matabiso.
Excuse me, I think somebody's microphone is on. I've started the recording. If you could just mute your microphone, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Claudine, hello. Am I on
Yes,
the
sir.
correct link?
Yes, you are. Okay. If you need anything, I am here. You can just WhatsApp me. Eh?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of your class.
Will do, thank you. Good evening, everybody. How are you? I was sorry, apologies. I was trying to find the link.
Evening, we fine, thanks.
Hi, I just got home. I just made me a cup of coffee quickly. So, sorry for that. Um, we're doing ILW tonight. Let me just see. If there's good evening, Angela's here. Okay. Let me just see who's all on the. Yeah, there's quite a few people. Okay, students. Um, not many of you. Okay, in terms, I think it's of the many of you do the PVL module where I asked you to submit case summaries. Many of you didn't do it, so I'm not gonna beg and plead people to do their work. We are all adults here, okay? So if you're not going to work with me, you will bear the consequences of it, okay? Um, tonight I want to do the section on writing, okay? Let me just access my notes. While I'm accessing my notes, are there any questions or comments for me? You can either raise your hand and indicate your question, or you can type it into the chat section for me. Okay. Okay. If there's no questions, I want us to do the following. Okay. I'm going to work in the chat section tonight, and then we are going to continue. But before I continue, I want to finish off quickly what we started last week. Okay. And last week, I did a discussion on the two civil actions there are and which parties are connected to each civil section, sorry, to each civil action. And I've spoken about no, that's not what I spoke about, students. I spoke about the hierarchy of courts, and I gave you some homework to do related to the other lower courts. Okay, am I correct? I gave you what to do on the children's court, the maintenance court, the family court, things like that. Am I correct? Can I get a yes or no? Can I get a yes or no? Okay. Yes, you did. Asipe. Okay. What I'd like to do quickly is I'm going to pause there because I know I must go over to superior courts. So let me start with something new. Park what we did for last week. I'll come back to that. And then I want us to go to a writing style. Okay. So all of you get a notepad ready, a clear notepad. And under you in the margins, you're going to write certain letters, and after each letter, I want you to skip 4 lines. Okay, so I'm going to go to the chat function. All of you go to the chat function and follow what I do. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to do the FIRAC or the IRAC style of writing. So what you do for me is I'm typing it in the chat function and you write it like I type it. So after each letter you type, I type, after each letter you write, you skip about 4 to 5 lines for me. Okay, so look at the example I'm giving you. And the acronym I've typed out for you is called FIRAC. Okay, so FIRAC is the method we use as law students and legal practitioners to answer questions of law, to answer problem questions. Okay, so whenever you are given a case summary to do, or you are given a problem question to answer, the method you need to use to answer it is known as FIRAC. Okay, so before I continue, are there any questions for me? Okay, any questions? Ask them now. Okay, all of you have your notepad and your pen with you, okay, because you need to start taking notes now. Okay, students, who can guess what I'm busy doing now? Okay, I want someone to guess what I'm busy doing now. If that person guesses correctly, that person is going to get a prize from me. This is one of the advantages of using this online platform. You can either raise your hand or you can type it in the chat function. Who can tell me what I'm busy doing now? Anyone? I'm gonna give three people an opportunity to answer. Who can guess what I'm busy doing now? Remember, I'm not having my camera on. You are giving, oh no, aside from the lesson I'm doing something else. Michelle, who can guess what I'm doing? Anyone? No one? Then I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not wearing my coat attire. Angela, I just finished a cup of coffee, but Angela is correct. I'm busy cooking supper. Okay, so this is the nice thing about using Microsoft Teams. I'm standing in a class, I'm doing a lesson, but I'm also multitasking. Okay, so I will send you a picture later of what my cooking comes out like. I'm actually a very good cook. Okay, so let us continue. Students, you have written down the acronym FIREC. Okay, and FIREC is the system we use to answer problem questions in law. Any question, you are going to use FIREC. Okay, so the F in FIREC, students, let's go to the first letter. Okay, the F in FIREC stands for facts. Okay, so let me type it in. If equals your facts. Okay, so when you are given a case study, when you are given a legal question, when you are given a problem question, okay, you are always given a set of facts. Okay, so you need, when you start your introduction, students, you need to provide as part of your answer a brief synopsis of the facts in the matter. Okay, so you need to be concise, and in terms of your answer, your facts must be just 5 or 6 lines long. Okay, not even 5 or 6 lines, 3 to 4 lines. So let me give you an example. Angela, on Saturday, the 18th of July, Angela negligently, or Angela, while not exercising the proper care, negligently reversed her vehicle into Owen's expensive Porsche, causing 200,000 rands damage. Okay? There you provided me with the facts. Okay? Some other student, or a lazy student, or a student who's not well prepared will, for example, list the facts as following. They will state that it was a beautiful sunny day on the 18th of July. Okay, Angela was wearing her favorite blue jeans with her Adidas tackies. Okay, you will give me so much irrelevant information that when the exam is finished and you run out to your friends and you ask your friends, you tell your friends, listen here, I am going to ace this test because I wrote 10 paragraphs on what the facts is. Okay, so you need to be concise. Just give the information that is relevant. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? You can either raise your hand or you can type it into the chat function. Any questions for me? Okay, let's continue. So After the facts, let me see. Basically, you just need to summarize the key points. Angela, that's correct. Okay, summarize the key points in short. Okay, but give the most relevant information as well. Okay. And give the most relevant information as well. So, are there any other questions? Timbasile, the facts can include who, where, how, and what. That is correct. Okay. But you need to keep it short, to the point, and concise. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? No other questions? After the if, we go to the letter I, okay? And I'm typing it into the chat function. I relates to your I relate to your issues or your legal question. Okay, it's either your issue, your legal issues, or your legal question. Okay, so in the example I made, remember I made the example that Angela, whilst not exercising the proper care, negligently reversed her vehicle into Owen's expensive, did I say Porsche or Mercedes Benz? Okay? Let's make it a Porsche, causing 200,000 rands damage. Okay, so the legal question in the problem I'm having you face now, or the legal dispute I'm having you answer, is that the legal question from there is Angela liable for the damage caused to Owen's vehicle? Okay, so the legal question is there, is Angela liable, or can Angela be held liable for the damages caused to Owen's vehicle? Okay, so your legal question is basically one or two lines. So it's very important, students, that from the set of facts provided to you, okay, from the set of facts provided to you, you need to be able, or you must be able to identify the issue in law, or the legal issue, the legal problem, or the legal question. Please be mindful, okay, that one scenario or one legal dispute can arise to multiple legal questions. Okay, so please be mindful of that. So let me give you an example of where one issue can, in one issue, there can arise multiple legal questions. Are there any questions before I continue? Okay, I need you to ask questions, because then I know you are on par with me and you understand where and what to do. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to start naming students. I'm going to start asking students to respond to me. Okay. Asipe is saying, you guys are fine. Okay, so I'm gonna trust what Asipe is saying. Okay. Okay, Angela is also good. Okay, so thank you for that. Students, then we go, I'm saying, I'm going to give you an example now of where one legal dispute can possibly arise into many legal questions. So let's take, students, let's for example, and this is where multiple legal questions arise. Let's, for example, take a divorce action. Okay, so from a divorce action, there are ancillary legal issues. Okay, so when parties divorce, it's normally not as simple as asking the court for an order of divorce or a divorce decree. Okay, because aside from a divorce decree, there are other legal issues such as division of the joint estate, such as spousal maintenance, such as maintenance for the minor children. You're looking at other issues such as care and contact arrangements for the minor children. So those are all issues that needs to be resolved, or issues that must be answered in law, okay, when a divorce action is pending. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, just give me a yes or a no. Does that make sense to everybody? Just give me a yes or no. Okay, let me check the chat function. Just give me a yes or a no. Okay, Angela says yes. Tembasile says yes. Al Jones says yes. Queen says yes. Asipi says yes. Okay, most students says yes. So now I'm gonna go over to the okay, I'm gonna go over to the R in FIREC, which stands for the following. I'm typing it into the chat function. It's known as your rule of law. Okay, this is a very important part of our discussion. This is a very important part of our discussion because here you, as when you're presenting your answer, you will now provide the marker or the reader with the relevant or applicable law you will use to answer the legal issues. Okay? So in terms of the first example I made, remember I made the example where Angela negligently or whilst not exercising the proper care, reverses into Owen's Porsche and causes 200,000 rands damage. Okay. Now, I also said that the legal question was, or the issue in law was, can Angela be held liable for the damage caused to Owen's vehicle? Now, when it comes to damages or whatever the case may be, the law of delict is applicable. Okay, so you as the writer of the answer, or when you respond to this, you will say the applicable law is the law of delict. Okay, and delict is derived from our common law. So the primary source of law, remember, you have to now refer to sources of law. Okay, and when I speak of sources of law, these are sources of authority. Okay, and these are sources that are binding. Okay, which will now be used to answer your legal question. So here you must refer to primary sources of law. Okay, so here you will refer to the law of delict. You might refer to case law. You might refer to legislation, but you will clearly state if legislation is available, what legislation you're referring to. If case law is available, you will cite the case law. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is where you refer to your sources of law, which you will use to answer the legal question. Any questions for me, students? Any questions? Okay. No questions? Okay. Our next letter, then I'll go over to is A. And when we speak of A, we speak of application. Okay. So application is also a very important part of the discussion, because in terms of your application, this is where you apply the rule of law to your legal issue. I'm going to repeat myself. Application is important because this is where you apply the rule of law to the legal issues. Okay, there's a question from Asipe. Is this where you also reference to other cases related or similar? Asipe, I stated that in your rule of law, okay, you must state all the relevant sources you are going to use. Okay, so if you are going to use other or related cases under your case law, you need to state these are the various case law I am applying to answer the legal question. Okay, you cannot, when you come to your application stage, introduce new case law or new sources of law. Okay, you got that? So in terms of your discussion or your application, I'm saying you need to apply your rule of law to your legal issues. Okay, so the idea is that every source of law you apply, you need to state that in a separate paragraph. Okay, you are going to find, or when you find that you are at the stage where you are repeating things, okay? You are repeating things from your app in your rule of law, and you're repeating it in the application stage. It means you are on the right track, okay? It means you are on the right track, okay? So the application stage is very, very important because I'm going to repeat myself. The application stage is very, very important because here you apply your rule of law to your legal issue. Any questions for me? Any questions? Okay, let me see if there's any questions. Okay. Michelle, like a bibliography. Michelle, what do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean by like a bibliography. You need to rephrase that question. Okay. So now I'm going over to the final part of the fire act, which is the C. Okay, Michelle. In terms of your listing, I think you're referring to when you are at the rule of law. Okay, the listing of your sources of law are in order of their importance. Okay, so we know that legislation is the most important source of primary sources of law. So if there is applicable legislation to your legal question, you are going to list all legislation first. Okay? After legislation, you may list your case law. Okay? After the case law, you may list your common law. Okay? After the common law, you may list African customary law, and after African customary law, you may list your custom. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, students? Does that make sense? Any other questions for me? Just see. Okay. Okay. Yes, it does. Okay. So then, once we are done with that, we go over to the final letter, which refers to the C, and the C now takes us to our conclusion. Okay? The C in FIREC takes you to your conclusion. Okay? Now, very, very importantly, students, in your conclusion, okay, you are going to penalize yourself. You are going to lose marks if you do the following. So, in your conclusion, students, you introduce no new information. Okay, I'm going to repeat myself. In the conclusion, you introduce no new information. You got that? No new information introduced in your conclusion. Okay, so in your conclusion, okay, remember you are not the court. Okay, so you cannot predict or determine in your conclusion what the court's decision will be. Okay, now very, very importantly, students, and I'm hoping you're writing this down. Okay, very, very importantly, in terms of private law, okay, when you answer a question related to a private law legal issue, okay, remember the standard of proof in private law matters is evidence on a balance of probabilities. Okay, we're working on a standard of proof called on a balance of probabilities. Okay, so your conclusion would read in terms, and here you will refer to legislation, to the rule of law or sources of law again. Okay, and if you are, for example, referring to case law, okay, you would say, in terms of the ratio dicadendi, in terms of the ratio dicadendi, or the reasons for the decision, as in the pension judgment, okay, it is where liability was found, blah, 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 okay, you would say that it is probable, okay, that the defendant could be found liable in this matter. Okay, so you use words like could, possibly, probable. Okay, you don't say, or you don't answer that Angela will be liable for Owen's damages based on the outcome in this case or that case, or based on the provisions of the Road Traffic Act, or whatever the case may be. Okay, you use probable, in all likelihood, words like that. Okay, does this make sense to you, students? Remember, no new facts are introduced in the conclusion stage. Any questions for me? Okay. Okay. Asipe says, yes, it does make sense. Okay. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to give you a civil case and a criminal matter for homework. And I am going to want you to do a case summary for me of both cases using the fire act method. I know when we started these discussions, I gave you cases to do for homework, okay? But this was before I introduced you to the fire act method. So what I want you to do is, when I give you these cases to do, you are going to do a case summary for me and you are going to do fire act. And those of you who did the case summary for me prior to fire act, you are going to compare your answers to each other. Okay, so I'm going to type in now in the chat function what cases you need to do the case summaries in terms of fire act for me. And let me just give you a submission date. Let me just go to my calendar. Sorry, students, I was on mute. Apologies for that. Okay, I'll have to start over. Okay, I've typed into the chat function. Two constitutional court cases. The one is a criminal case, which is the Makwanyana case. And the second one is a civil matter, which is the Subramani matter. Okay? You guys must now use the FIRAC method and provide me with a case summary on both matters. Okay? For that, the submission date is Monday, the 28th of September. Okay, Monday, the 28th of September by 4 p.m. the afternoon, and I'm typing the email address you must submit it to. I will, those of you who submit, okay, I will make remarks on your submission, which will be valuable for study and revision purposes. I will make my notes on there for you, and I will scan and email it back to the email address you have sent it from. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Can you please indicate how long the application and how long the conclusion must be? Michelle, based on the legal issues and based on the sources of law you've used, that will determine how long the body of your discussion is. Okay? So if you're dealing with a normal delict matter, the discussion shouldn't be too long. Okay, but if you're dealing with a more complicated legal issue, your discussion will be longer. Okay, but very, very important in terms of your discussion, you only discuss the sources of law in terms of your rule of law you introduced. Okay, and Michelle, I'm also not referring to the homework. Okay, and very, very importantly, no new information introduced in your conclusion. Remember, I'm giving you this. The reason why I'm giving you this exercise to do, and this reason why I'm giving you the two cases to do, this is a practice session for you. Okay? And the reason why you're submitting it to me is I'm going to take my time to go through each one's answer and to give comments on it so that you are able to improve on it. Okay, remember, this is a skill you acquiring, and especially the skill of writing. Any other questions? Any other questions for me? Okay, Michelle is saying, Tembesile, I only want typed work. I don't know what you mean. What other way is there submitting the work? So you must type it out neatly and send it to me. Okay, I'm not going to accept handwritten work. Okay. Case summary below. Thank you for that, Angela. Thank you so much for that. Um, any other questions? Any other comments? Guys, my supper is almost done, eh? Are there no other comments? Okay, let me just check. Angela says, sorry, Timbasile says you got it. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, students. You have now for ILW the rest of the week to work on that case summaries. Just some admin. How long can a case summary be in terms of pages? It depends on the two most important part of the fire act. Okay, it depends. Sorry, on the three most important parts. It depends on your rule of law, your application, and your conclusion. So it depends how much information you put in there, students. Okay, so it all depends on how much information you put in there. Okay, let me check if there's anything else. Okay, no other questions. Now, students, now I want us to go back to last week's discussion where we discussed our two types of courts. We discussed our lower courts and we discussed our superior courts. Okay, and I think last week I concluded with the discussion of our lower courts. Okay, so now I want to go over to our superior courts quickly. Okay, so you need to go back to last week's notes and just continue with last week's notes. Any questions so far? Okay, before I start, just some admin. A few minutes before I finish, Adele Blacker, one of the persons at UNISA, who's instrumental in providing us with this platform, is going to speak to you guys about the query forms, the request for consultation forms, which will be available tomorrow. Okay, so from tomorrow, you are able to access a form which you can fill in, which you have to fill in, and that will allow you to have additional one-on-one sessions with me. Okay, so it's basically a form where you fill it in. I think we discussed it last week. A form which you fill in your details, and very, very importantly, you need to be clear on what it is you need extra support with. Okay, and then in terms of my available times, okay, it will be sent to me and I will indicate to you when we are able to have these one-on-one individual sessions with each other. Okay, And in terms of the other part of the admin, you just need to, sorry, you just need to submit your student number in the chat function. Okay, so I am going to go over and continue the discussion on the hierarchy of courts. So I've already spoken or discussed the lower courts, and now I'm going to have a brief discussion on superior courts. Okay. Any questions for me before I continue, students? Any questions, or may I continue? Okay. If there's no questions, I'm gonna continue. Okay, as CP says, please continue. Okay. Now, I've indicated to you, students, that lower courts are regarded as creatures of statute. Okay, meaning lower courts are bound by the law. So this means they have to follow the law. Okay. Now, on the other hand, okay, I'm going to type it into the chat function. Okay, when we refer to our superior courts, okay, our superior courts has a power called I'm typing it into the chat function. It has a power, okay, which is called inherent jurisdiction. Can anyone tell me, okay, now I want some answers. Can anyone tell me where this power comes from? Can anyone tell me where this power comes from? Okay, you either raise your hand or you tell me in the chat function. Where does this power come from, students? Anyone? Some people? Where does this power called inherent jurisdiction come from? No one? Angela, very good. This power stems from the common law. Okay, Angela, good answer. This power comes from the common law. Okay. Now, an important characteristic about this power is that, okay, superior courts are now able, or they have the power to control, determine, or regulate their own processes. Okay? And one other important thing, students, is that remember our supreme law, okay? our supreme law in South Africa is the Constitution. Okay? And the Constitution also gives our superior courts certain powers. Okay? So I want us to go to our constitutions. Okay? I want you to access your constitutions. Those of you who have constitutions, I want to guide you to the following sections. Okay, I'm just busy accessing my own constitution. I want us to go to, tell you now, to chapter 8 of our Constitution, which speaks of courts and administration of justice. Okay, chapter 8 of our Constitution, which speaks of courts and administration of justice. And in particular, I want us to look at the following sections. Okay, let me just go there quickly. I'm almost there. Okay, chapter 8. Okay, firstly, section 165. Okay, which speaks of our judicial authority. Okay, and here, chapter 8 at section 165 gives a clear indication of the three powers in which our state power is divided into. And the specific power I want to speak about here, is legislative authority. Okay, so in terms of the doctrine of separation of powers, students. Now, remember, in terms of this doctrine, and this is applicable to our legal system or our system of government, in terms of the doctrine of separation of power, okay, the exercise of state power is divided into three spheres. Okay, it's divided into three spheres. The first exercise of power is our executive. Okay, so this is the power that is vested with the president and his or her cabinet. Okay, this is the executive. Okay, we'll go into that at some later stage. This is the executive. The second branch of power, or the second sphere of power, is the legislature. Okay, and the legislature is responsible for the enactment of legislation. Okay. Our legislature is divided in two houses in Parliament, or it consists out of two houses in Parliament. I will type it into the chat function for you. Okay. The first house is called the National Assembly, and the second house is called the NCOP, and the NCOP stands for the National Council of Provinces. Okay. And the third branch of power I want to bring you to now is the judicial authority. Okay. So in terms of our judicial authority, Section 65(1) of our Constitution is very important, because that section tells you clearly that our judicial authority, the judicial authority of South Africa, is vested in the courts. Okay? Okay? The judicial authority of South Africa is vested in the courts. And Section 165(2), okay, elaborates on that, because it tells you, it speaks of the independence of our courts. And it tells you the courts are independent and they are subject to no one. They are not subject to the president, they are not subject to parliament, but the courts are only subject to the Constitution and the law, which they must apply impartially and without fear, favor, or prejudice. Okay? Without fear, favor, or prejudice. Okay? I want us to go to Section 165(6). And Section 165(6) tells us the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary and exercises responsibility over the establishment and monitoring of norms and standards for the exercise of the judicial function of all of the courts. Okay? Any questions for me, students? Any questions for me? Any questions so far? No questions? Okay. If there's no questions, I want us to go to Section 166 of our Constitution. And Section 166 speaks of the hierarchy of our court. Section 166A, our highest, okay? In terms of Section 166A, our highest superior court is the Constitutional Court. Okay? The Constitutional Court is the highest decision-making court in all constitutional matters. Okay? So, our Constitutional Court is our highest decision-making court in all constitutional matters. Okay? It is also regarded as the court of final instance. It is also regarded as the court of final instance in constitutional matters. Okay? Also be mindful that the Constitutional Court can, in certain instances, it can be regarded as a court of first instance. Okay? So, a direct application to the Constitutional Court is possible. But what happens? The court has the discretion, the court has the inherent discretion to consider this application or not. That is where the court's inherent jurisdiction comes in. Okay? Our next superior court is the Supreme Court of Appeal. Okay? We have one Supreme Court in South Africa, which is seated in Bloemfontein. Okay? And the Supreme Court of Appeal is the highest decision-making court. The highest decision-making court in civil as well as criminal appeals. Angela, the president can never be above any court. Okay? The president is not above any court. Okay? So, I said the Supreme Court of Appeal or the Appellate Division is the highest decision-making court in criminal and civil appeals. Okay? And then we have our high courts in every province. Okay? So the high court and any high court of appeal that may be established by an act of parliament to hear appeals from any court of a status similar to that of a high court. So we have a high court in each province. In certain provinces, such as the Gauteng province, the Eastern Cape, we have more than one high court. Okay, so all of these courts, the three courts I spoke of now, all of these courts are regarded as superior courts having inherent jurisdiction. Now, these courts also, I want us to go to the next section quickly. These courts in section 170. Okay? Section 170 of our Constitution states that all the superior courts may decide any matter, okay, but very, very importantly, okay, no courts with a status lower than a high court, okay, may inquire or rule into the constitutionality of any legislation or any conduct of the president. Okay, then section 172. Okay, the court has the power, okay, section 172(1)(a), to declare any law or conduct that is inconsistent with the Constitution as invalid. Okay. So, section 173, okay, the inherent power of the court has also been constitutionalized in section 173, okay, so meaning the Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court of Appeal, and the High Court of South Africa each has the inherent power to protect and regulate their own process and to develop the common law, taking into account the interest of justice. Okay, so these sections of the Constitution that I've quoted with you now, you need to familiarize yourselves with that. Okay, you need to familiarize yourselves with that. And with that, I am going to stop tonight's discussion. Is Adele online for us? Is Adele online? Adele, are you ready? Claudine? Okay, let us just get Adele on. Okay, students, I just sent Adele a message, and as I said, she just wants to discuss tomorrow's, when the forms for individual sessions are going to be uploaded. Okay, so she just wants to discuss that with you. I've sent her a message now to find out if she's online. Claudine? Okay, let's just wait on Adele to come. Okay, I see students are typing in the student numbers. Let's just get Adele on. Adele, are you there? Okay, students, we'll just have to hold on a few minutes for Adele. Okay, let's just give a chance to come online. While while we're waiting on Adele, please put any relevant questions into the chat function or engage with me now for the next 2 minutes or so.
Hi, Owen. Okay, there. It seems like I'm connecting now. I'm struggling to connect. Okay. Hi there, Owen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Adal. I just finished my session. So you have the next few minutes to engage with our students quickly.
Okay. Owen,
Thank
there's
you.
just your engagement as well, because we've just tested the background and we've still got some technical challenges that will have to wait until Monday. So in the meantime, what we would like to do is that you can continue with your one-on-ones, but we just need to find a way of them communicating to you the one-on-ones that they want at this stage. What do you provide them with? Your WhatsApp or your email address?
I provide them with my email address. I'll put it into the chat function now again.
Okay.
Ne?
So what we'll do?
So they can indicate the problem areas to my email. When I answer them, I will CC you in it. I will answer them with a time for when we can do it, either via Teams or WhatsApp. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Now what we'll do is we'll give you a link. You will schedule a time with a student. You will let me know of the time as well. And you will have a video call with a student like here, we're doing right here now, but it will only be you and the student. You have a choice between you and the student whether you want to put your cameras on or off, and we can record the session for you if that's what you would like. Remember now, this is now our back end, your evidence that something took place. So what I would like you to do, Owen, is you will receive the email from the student with a query. You can prepare for it. You can let the student know when you can speak to the student. You will go online. You will send the student the link, because that's going to be a different link for consultation. And you and the student will then log on at the same time and have your one-on-one session. The last thing you will do is that in the chat, you will type that you are happy with my solution to your query. And the student will say, I am happy. Just for now, until Monday, we will have to do it the long way around until we sorted out the technical challenges. Are you okay with that, Owen? I'm very sorry about that.
I'm okay with that. That works perfectly. I'm okay with that.
Thank you very much. So the student will be in direct contact with you for the next week. And if you have any challenges, Owen, you give me a call and we'll address it as we go along.
Will do. Will do.
Please, students, make sure that in the subject title of your email to Owen, you write your student number. Okay.
Owen, what email address? The Outlook one. Is he there?
Yes, Claudine, I typed it into the chat.
Yeah, I saw. I just put it here again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You understand what the one-on-one session with your facilitator is about, eh? If there's anybody that's unsure, please do ask now, and we will clarify that. Owen, did you tire them out?
He did it, Dal. He did.
Okay, okay. No, but then, we must really talk to Owen. He can't just tire our students out. How must they go and study still tonight?
I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry.
They know exactly what the presidential powers are in a court of law now after today's session.
Right. Okay. All right, Owen, let's see how it goes, and you will keep me in the loop with every query that you get, and let me know when you want your one-on-ones, and I can still record those sessions for you, okay?
Okay, got it. We'll stay in contact. Ne?
Thank you, Owen.
Okay.